One day your name will be spoken for the last time, not by an enemy, not by a stranger, by someone who loved you, and neither of you will know it's happening. Years from now, a friend might mention you in conversation. A child might tell a story about you. A grandchild might point at an old photograph and ask, "Who was that?" Then one day, someone will ask that question, and nobody will have an answer. At first, that sounds terrifying. But the strange part isn't that it happens. The strange part is what happens after. Because once nobody remembers you, are you really gone? Or is that where the story actually begins? Imagine a cemetery on the edge of a forgotten town. The grass is overgrown. The gravestones are cracked. Names have faded into smooth stone. Hundreds of people lie there. They laughed. They fell in love. They worried about bills. They had favorite songs, bad habits, dreams, entire worlds inside their minds. And now, nobody remembers any of them. Not a single face, not a single voice, not even a name. If you walked through that cemetery today, it would feel like those lives disappeared completely. But they didn't. And that's where things get strange. Take a moment and think about your great-great-grandparents. Not the ones you've heard stories about. The others, the ones whose names vanished. How many are there? 10, 20, 50, hundreds? Every one of them helped create the person listening to this video right now. Without a single one of them, you wouldn't exist. Yet most are completely forgotten. It's one of the biggest paradoxes in human life. People can disappear from memory, while their influence continues forever, and history is filled with examples. A farmer plants an orchard. He dies. Nobody remembers him. A century later, people are still eating fruit from trees descended from the ones he planted. A teacher inspires a child. The child grows up and changes thousands of lives. The teacher's name vanishes. The effects don't. The memory dies. The consequences keep moving, like ripples spreading long after the stone disappears beneath the water. But humans have always fought against this. For thousands of years, we've tried to escape being forgotten. Ancient kings built enormous monuments. Emperors stamped their names onto coins. Pharaohs carved themselves into mountains of stone. They believed remembrance was a kind of immortality. And for a while, it worked. People still know the name of Tutankhamun. People still know Julius Caesar. People still know Alexander the Great. But here's the twist. For every famous ruler remembered today, there are thousands whose names vanished completely. Entire kingdoms disappeared. Entire civilizations became dust. Their rulers once believed they would be remembered forever. Now we don't even know they existed, which raises an uncomfortable question. If even kings couldn't defeat forgetting, what chance do the rest of us have? For a long time, scientists believed memory itself was surprisingly fragile. And they were right. The average person is forgotten much faster than most people imagine. Within a few generations, stories become fragments. Fragments become guesses. Guesses become silence. Think about your own family. You probably know your parents, maybe your grandparents, perhaps a few stories about great-grandparents. But go back just a little farther, and things become blurry. Names disappear. Faces disappear. Entire lives vanish into darkness. Not because anyone wanted to forget them, because human memory simply has limits. Every generation is handed a giant collection of stories. Then they pass on only a few. The rest quietly disappear, like sand slipping through fingers. But then something happened that no other generation in history had ever experienced. The internet arrived, and suddenly forgetting became much harder. Or so it seemed. Today, billions of photos exist online. Messages, videos, voice recordings, entire digital versions of ourselves. A person in 2026 leaves behind more recorded information than a king from 1,000 years ago. At first, that sounds like victory. Maybe now we'll never be forgotten. Maybe technology solved the problem. Except it may have created a new one. Researchers studying digital archives noticed something unexpected. The more information exists, the less attention each piece receives. Imagine walking into a room containing one photograph. You'll probably study it. Now imagine walking into a room containing 10 million photographs. Most become invisible. We're drowning in memory. And because of that, individual memories matter less. In a strange way, the internet may preserve everything, while helping us remember nothing. Think about the thousands of social media profiles belonging to people who have died. Pages frozen in time, birthdays that no longer matter, photos nobody visits, messages nobody reads, entire digital ghosts scattered across the internet. They're still there. But are they remembered? Or merely stored? Those are not the same thing. And this leads to an even bigger mystery. What is remembrance actually for? Most people assume being remembered benefits the dead. But does it? After all, the dead don't know they're being remembered. The living do. Maybe remembrance was never about the people who died. Maybe it's about the people left behind. A grandmother keeps a photograph because it helps her remember love. A son tells stories because it keeps part of his father alive inside himself. Memory doesn't just preserve people, it preserves meaning. And once you see that, something surprising happens. The fear of being forgotten starts to change shape. Because maybe the real question isn't whether people remember your name. Maybe the real question is whether your existence changed anything. Consider this. You smile at a stranger on a terrible day. The stranger feels slightly better. Later, they show kindness to someone else. That person makes a decision they wouldn't have otherwise made. The chain continues. Years later, nobody remembers where it started. But the effects remain. The original act becomes invisible. Yet it still exists inside the future. This happens constantly. Every conversation, every friendship, every act of generosity, every moment of courage. Tiny causes creating enormous consequences, most of which you'll never see. And that brings us back to the mystery from the beginning. What happens when nobody remembers you? The answer might be far stranger than disappearing. Because memory is only one way humans continue. Influence is another, and influence often survives much longer. A forgotten inventor creates an idea. A forgotten nurse comforts a child. A forgotten parent raises someone extraordinary. Their names vanish, their fingerprints remain everywhere, invisible, permanent, scattered through countless lives they'll never meet. In other words, the world may remember far more of you than anyone realizes, just not in the way you expected. There's a story hidden inside every city. Millions of people once walked those streets. Most are forgotten, yet the buildings stand where they built them. The roads follow paths they created. The customs survive because they passed them on. Their names disappeared. Their presence didn't. The same is true for you. One day, the last photograph might fade. The last story might be told. The last person who remembers your voice might be gone. And that should feel tragic. But strangely, it isn't. Because by then, pieces of you will already exist inside other people, inside choices, inside habits, inside memories that no longer contain your name, like a candle lighting thousands of others. The original flame disappears. The light continues. Maybe every person dies, twice, once when their body stops, and again when their name is spoken for the last time. But perhaps there's a third possibility nobody talks about, a version of you that never really leaves. Not the face, not the name, not the photograph, just the consequences. The invisible trail of things you changed without knowing. And if that's true, then somewhere in the distant future, long after nobody remembers who you were, someone may still be living inside a world that is slightly different because you existed. Without knowing your name, without seeing your face, without remembering you at all. And maybe that's the strangest kind of immortality.